The project's located in a traditionally working class area of Melbourne's north, where the architectural context and existing conditions are limited, modest, and in parts run down. This is the immediate context of the site. So the majority of the existing developments are transitory and inadequately serve the population. They're heavily concreted and have little regard for social, economic, and environmental sustainability. That said, the site is really well connected in terms of proximity to public transport, shopping centres, schools, health services, and most importantly, the Aboriginal Services District along Bell and High Streets in Preston. Responding to this context, we strove to build something timeless that sets a benchmark for future growth in the area, while being sensitive to the existing neighbours. This approach was in line with the Darebin City Council's strategic plan that stressed the importance for change and development in the area. Our planning consultants, Hanson, were instrumental in the success of the project, where we received 0 objections through town planning. The concept for the project rested on 3 pillars: the need to house people in culturally appropriate homes, to do so through a participatory lens, and to design for country and sustainability. The need to house First Nations people in culturally appropriate homes was paramount to the success of this project. Leaning on the work of Jeff Greenway, who's actually in here, we looked at his Aboriginal housing design guidelines that he prepared for Aboriginal Housing Victoria. And to do that, we sought to address the specific needs of First Nation communities in inner city Melbourne. One of the ways that we did this was by programming the building to reflect the community structure of the residents. We prioritised the 3 ground floor apartments for elders. At the ground level facing the street, these residents act as custodians of the building, with each subsequent floor broken down into its own community with its distinct identity. The second pillar was to approach design through a participatory lens. The leadership of Adam Sanford and Nikki McNamara from AHV and the extraordinary artwork of Tani Edwards speaks to this. Here we see her vibrant artwork that dotted each level in the common areas and in the lift itself. We also facilitated a collaboration between the landscape architect, the builder, and Tani to emboss the landscaping throughout with meaningful words for Tani. Designing for the final pillar was to design for country and sustainability. We, building on the connection between lands, waterways, and interwoven cultural complexities, the project sets high standards in minimising and mitigating operational, embodied, and behavioural carbon. An all-electric building with high efficiency fixtures and fittings and a very high-performing thermal envelope with 8.2 minimum NatHERS sets a new standard in social housing. Renewable energy generation on site through solar panels, a high-efficiency central heat pump for hot water contributes to a great story for AHV and the planet. In terms of embodied carbon, we've minimised this through smart material selection. Locally made bricks quarried from within 20 kilometres of the site, the use of natural cork flooring, and E0 certified MDF also contributes to mitigating embodied carbon. The reduction in behavioural carbon is realised through rainwater collection on site and reuse, Indigenous drought-tolerant planting, clotheslines, no dryers, minimal car parking, ample bike parking, and a communal recycling room on ground. There are 3 moments of program resolution that I want to touch on that I think lead to this project being great. The reduction in car parking and prioritisation of landscaping, the building morphology, which maximises access to natural light and ventilation, and the selection of robust materials. Reducing the number of car spaces on site and locating them to the south of the building underneath the first floor meant we didn't compromise the pedestrian entrance to the building or the outlook. We also didn't compromise the natural amenity for the residents or the neighbours. It also meant that we could accommodate deep root planting, enhance biodiversity, and protect the amenity of the neighbours with deep root planting buffers to the perimeter. Breaking the building into 2 volumes, separated with a central open-air stair, also allowed us to solve for passive surveillance, natural light and ventilation, active vertical transport within the community. Specifying natural, sustainable materials throughout was another way that we delivered on culturally sensitive spaces that were durable. cork flooring, simple MDF with a water-based clear coat sealer. And cost and value. It was delivered at a remarkably affordable price. Construction cost of $3,300 a square metre. We can attribute this to a few things. Significant donations that we really, really worked hard to obtain, the diligence and commitment of our builder, Bowden Corp, and the team effort to pursue a reductionist approach to design and to do things differently. So we worked with Rachel Lacey from Taubmans and secured a donation for all the paint in the project. We got all of the brickwork donated for the project from Brickworks, again, sourced from within 20 kilometres of the site, so a great story. And Bowden Corp, they tendered the project before the pandemic and then stuck to the original tender price, which was remarkable. And they worked creatively and diligently the whole time. And at Breathe, we also donated our construction services pro bono. We need to credit AHV themselves being open-minded to doing things differently. So they were extraordinarily receptive to a reductionist approach to design, which meant we were able to reduce construction costs significantly. At its core, the project's about housing First Nations people in safe, affordable and culturally sensitive homes. It's about working closely with a team in a participatory framework that fosters deep listening and strong design outcomes. And it's hopefully about shifting the paradigm of social housing typologies towards a culturally sensitive, environmentally attuned place for people to call home. Thank you.
Extraordinary the generosity of those who are able to donate.
Yeah.
Did that guide some of the decisions you made about what things were built out of? Was it design and then you sought donations, or was it seeking those donations first?
Hand in hand. So from the very beginning, so this was a 2019 project, and we started leaning on connections and contacts so that we knew that what we were designing and putting through town planning was buildable.
Yeah. Nice.
So it was a real team effort.
I had a similar question because I was sort of wondering how the architectural expression was driven by the occupants. I mean, I can understand from the detailing and the art and the nuance, but the actual building itself, how was that driven?
Yeah, so we were very conscious not to try and not make this explicitly Indigenous or have literal motifs that we were designing. That's extraordinarily problematic. So what we tried to do was approach it in a very similar way to how we would any multi-residential project in terms of simplicity, timelessness and elegance. And then where the real collaboration came in was listening to Aboriginal Housing Victoria and what their real core requirements were, because they really are the subject matter experts, and then being really open to just giving over the reins. So for Tani's artwork, this was originally our scope to design the internal common areas, and as soon as we got Tani on board, we handed it over, got a variation back from the builder, maybe we could do some more. So I think it's I don't know, it's Novi's word, being humble, open to doing things and working hard, I guess.
So are these long-term apartments for, particular families? Because I can imagine there must be a lot of competition to get into a place.
Yeah. So before Christmas, they were all 9 out of 14 were tenanted, which was fantastic. We'd only handed over the building, I think, 3 weeks prior. So it is very competitive. And the Lulu at AHV, who works with actually working out the right mix for the project, it's a very complex process. And some tenants will be long-term and some will be more transitory. So it was, I guess, not over-designing the internal spaces so that there was that degree of flexibility, and also oversizing the spaces and making sure there was ample storage.